My name is Hayley Thompson and I am 28 years old. This is my story. When my family kicked me out for being a single mum, I won the lottery. Their tune changed. They did not even ask about my well-being for the last few years. My parents suddenly reached my house, but my reaction shocked them. Before I tell you my story, please subscribe to the channel and type in the comment from where you are watching this video. I sank onto the couch, the springs creaking beneath me, and stared at the stack of overdue bills on the coffee table. The electricity notice was stamped in red. Final warning. My stomach twisted, but I was too tired to cry. My son, Ethan, was asleep in the next room, his soft breaths the only thing keeping me grounded. I never thought I'd end up here, alone, broke, and exhausted. But the day I told my parents I was keeping my baby, I became a stranger to them. I still remember my father's cold stare, my mother's disappointed sigh. "You made your choice, Hayley. Don't expect us to clean up your mess." My sister wouldn't even look at me. At first, I thought they'd come around, that one day my phone would ring, and my mom would ask how I was holding up. But days turned into months, and months into years. They moved on as if I never existed. I exhaled, rubbing my temples. I had learned to survive without them. But some nights, like this one, when the weight of it all pressed down on me, I wondered if they ever missed me like I missed them. The alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., and I forced myself up, my body aching from barely 3 hours of sleep. My shift at the diner started at 6, but before that, I had to drop Ethan off at daycare and pray I'd make it to work on time. I couldn't afford another warning, one more, and I was out. That was the thing about living paycheck to paycheck. There was no room for mistakes. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing in the mornings and cleaning offices at night. In between, I picked up whatever side gigs I could, babysitting, delivering groceries, anything that kept food on the table. Some days I skipped meals so Ethan wouldn't have to. Other days I'd pretend I wasn't hungry when he asked why I wasn't eating. The hardest part wasn't the exhaustion or the hunger. It was the loneliness. I had no one to call when the pipes burst in my tiny apartment. No one to watch Ethan when he had a fever, forcing me to bring him along to my cleaning shift, wrapped in a blanket on the office couch. No one to celebrate his first steps with. There were nights I sat on the floor, my head in my hands, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe I was reckless, foolish, incapable. But then I'd hear Ethan's giggle or feel his tiny arms wrap around me, and suddenly, none of it mattered. I wasn't just surviving for myself, I was doing it for him. Rejection became a part of life. I lost count of how many landlords turned me away because my credit was shot. How many times I applied for better-paying jobs only to be ignored. I even swallowed my pride once and reached out to my sister hoping for the tiniest bit of help. She left me on read, but I refused to break. I got up every morning no matter how much my body protested. I smiled at customers who barely looked at me. I pushed through every single day because giving up wasn't an option. I had nothing, but I had Ethan. And somehow that had to be enough. It had been one of those days, the kind that drained every ounce of energy from my body. Work had been brutal, my manager snapping at me for something I didn't even do, and Ethan had come down with a cough that worried me. Payday was still 2 days away, and I had exactly $14 left in my wallet, just enough for milk, bread, and maybe some soup for Ethan. I stopped at the gas station, rubbing my tired eyes as I grabbed the essentials. While waiting in line, my gaze landed on the bright display of lottery tickets behind the counter. "Jackpot's up to $75 million, the cashier said, noticing my stare. He chuckled. "Not that anyone actually wins." I let out a breathy laugh. I wasn't the kind of person who gambled. Every dollar mattered too much. But something in me, maybe exhaustion, maybe desperation, nudged me forward. "Screw it," I mumbled, pulling out my last $5 bill. "Give me one." The cashier tore off a ticket and slid it over. I stuffed it into my coat pocket without even looking at the numbers. It was a dumb impulse. a fleeting moment of wishful thinking. By the time I got home, I had already forgotten about it. There were bigger things to worry about, like stretching the last of the groceries and getting Ethan to sleep. That night, as I tucked him in, I ran my fingers through his messy curls and whispered, "One day, baby. Things are gonna be better." I promised. Days passed. Work, bills, exhaustion. The routine never changed. Then, one evening, while cleaning out my coat pocket, I found the crumpled ticket. I almost threw it away, but on a whim, I pulled out my phone and searched for the winning numbers. At first, my tired brain didn't register what I was seeing. My heart pounded as I checked again. And again. The numbers matched. My hands started shaking. My breath caught in my throat. "No way," I whispered. I stumbled back onto the couch, staring at the ticket in disbelief. My entire life had just changed, and I hadn't even seen it coming. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I read the numbers again, this time out loud, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. No way. No freaking way. I grabbed my phone and searched for the results one more time, just in case I had somehow read them wrong. But there they were, the exact same numbers printed on my ticket. My ticket. I clamped a hand over my mouth, my breath coming in quick, shallow bursts. My whole body felt like it was buzzing. My brain couldn't catch up with what my eyes were seeing. I had spent years scraping by, counting every dollar, choosing between groceries and rent, and now, in an instant, I was a multimillionaire. A choked laugh slipped out of me. It sounded strange, almost hysterical. I wasn't even sure if I was laughing or crying, probably both. Ethan stirred in his bed, and I forced myself to stay quiet, but my mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. People like me didn't win the lottery. I needed proof. I needed to hear someone official say it. My fingers fumbled as I dialed the lottery hotline, my pulse drumming in my ears. When the automated voice confirmed it, when it said my ticket was the jackpot winner, my legs gave out and I sank onto the floor. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time in years, they weren't from stress or exhaustion. They were from relief. I thought about what this meant. No more choosing between rent and food, no more sleepless nights wondering if I could keep the lights on, no more working 3 jobs just to survive. Ethan would never have to go without again. I pictured us in a real home, not the tiny rundown apartment with leaky faucets and paper-thin walls. I imagined him running through a backyard, his laughter filling the air. I could send him to a good school, give him opportunities I never had. And for me? I could finally breathe. I could go to sleep without the crushing weight of debt pressing on my chest. Maybe I could even go back to school, build something for myself beyond survival. A million thoughts swarmed my head, but one stood out the most. I didn't owe anyone anything, especially not the people who had abandoned me. My parents, my sister, they had made their choice, and now I had mine. A slow, determined smile spread across my face. Everything was about to change. I should have known it wouldn't take long. News like this spreads fast, especially in a family like mine. For years, they had ignored me. No calls, no messages, no birthday wishes, nothing. I was a ghost to them the moment I chose to keep Ethan. But now that my name was plastered all over the news as the latest lottery winner, suddenly I wasn't invisible anymore. It started with a text from my mom. "Haley, sweetheart, I miss you. Can we talk?" Sweetheart? I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. She hadn't called me that in years. I didn't reply. Then came my dad. He never texted, he was too prideful for that, but he called. 5 times in a row. I let them all go to voicemail. By the end of the day, my sister jumped in. "Hey, sis, so happy for you, we should catch up." Sis, she had walked right past me in the grocery store 2 years ago like I was a stranger. Now she wanted to catch up. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. My breath caught in my throat as I peeked through the peephole. My parents, standing there, looking uncomfortable as if they weren't quite sure how to do this. I hesitated before opening it. The moment they saw me, their faces softened, like they were relieved I hadn't slammed the door in their faces. "Oh, honey," my mom breathed, stepping forward like she wanted to hug me. I didn't move. She hesitated, but kept smiling. "We're so proud of you." "Proud? For what?" "Buying a lottery ticket." My dad cleared his throat. We made mistakes." He looked down, shaking his head as if the weight of his regret was suddenly too much to bear. "Cutting you off. We thought we were doing the right thing at the time, but we see now that you were wrong?" I finished for him. My voice was calm, but inside my heart pounded. He nodded. "Yeah, we were wrong." My mom reached for my hand. "But we can fix this. We're still family." Family. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. Where had this family been when I had nothing? When I was struggling to feed my son? When I had called my sister begging for help only to be ignored? I swallowed the lump in my throat. They thought this was going to be easy. That I'd be so desperate for their love that I'd let them waltz back in, as if nothing had happened. They had no idea who I had become. I took a slow breath, looked my mother in the eye and said, "Funny how family only matters to you when there's money involved." I shut the door after they left, but their words lingered in the air, pressing down on me. "We're still family." That should have meant something. It used to. But now? Now it just felt empty. I sank onto the couch, rubbing my temples. My emotions were all over the place: anger, confusion, hurt. Part of me wanted to scream, to throw everything they had said back in their faces. Another part of me hated that I still cared, that even after everything, some tiny broken piece of me wanted to believe them. For years, I had dreamed of this moment. Not the money, I never expected that, but the part where they'd come back, realize their mistake, apologize. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would bring me some kind of peace, but instead of feeling relief, I just felt exhausted. Where was this love when I needed it? Where was this family when I was scared, alone, struggling to buy diapers? I had begged for a second chance back then. I had swallowed my pride and reached out. And they had ignored me. Now the roles were reversed. Now they were the ones reaching out. Now I was the one with the power to forgive or turn away. And I didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to hurt them the way they hurt me. I wanted them to feel the sting of rejection, to know what it was like to be left in the cold. But would that make me any better than them? Ethan's small giggle drifted in from his room, snapping me out of my thoughts. I turned, watching him play with his stuffed bunny, completely unaware of the storm raging inside me. I had fought too hard to let them drag me back into their world of conditions and expectations. I had built something for myself, even when they said I couldn't. I had learned to survive without them. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about letting them back in. Maybe it was just about letting go. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight in my chest start to loosen. I didn't have to rush this decision. I didn't owe them anything, not my time, not my money, and certainly not my pain. For once in my life, I was in control. And I wasn't going to waste that power on people who had already proven what I meant to them. I knew they were waiting for my call, waiting for me to reach out to say I had thought about it and decided we could be a family again, that I was willing to forget the past and move forward. But I wasn't that girl anymore. A week passed before I made my decision. I invited them to dinner, not at some fancy restaurant, but at the same little diner where I used to scrape by on minimum wage, surviving off leftover tips and coffee refills. It felt fitting. They arrived dressed up, my mom in pearls, my dad in his best jacket, my sister all smiles like we had been close this whole time. They looked around, clearly unimpressed by the worn-out booths and the faint smell of grease. When I sat down, my mom reached for my hand. "Oh, sweetheart, we've missed you so much." I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold on either. I just smiled. "I know." Their eyes lit up, like they had already won, like they thought I was here to fall back into place to play the role of the grateful daughter who had finally come to her senses. The waitress took our orders and my dad wasted no time getting to the point. "So, what's next for you, Hayley? Now that you've got all these opportunities." His voice trailed off, but I knew what he was really asking. My sister chimed in. "Yeah, maybe you can help out. You know, since we're family and all." I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I slid it across the table. "What's this?" my mom asked, flipping it open. Her face paled as she scanned the pages. "A donation," I said simply, "in your names, to a foundation that helps single mothers, the kind who don't have families to support them." Silence. My dad's jaw clenched. My sister's smile vanished. You donated all that money?" My mum's voice wavered. "Not all of it," I said, shrugging, "but enough to make a difference." I leaned back, tilting my head. "I figured since you weren't there for me, at least your names could be attached to something good." My dad cleared his throat, forcing a chuckle. "Now, Hayley, let's not be rash. I cut him off. "You were right." I met their eyes one by one. "I am better off without you." My mum gasped. My sister's mouth fell open. My dad, he just stared, speechless. I stood up, tossing a few bills on the table. "Dinner's on me," I said with a smile. "Consider it my last gift to you." And with that, I walked away. No anger, no regrets, just freedom. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought they had abandoned me because of their rigid beliefs, their so-called family values that didn't include a single mother struggling to raise her son. But the truth? It was far worse. It started with a phone call I wasn't expecting. An unknown number. Normally I wouldn't have answered, but something in me, curiosity maybe, made me pick up. "Hayley Thompson." The voice was sharp, professional. "I work for the State Lottery Commission. I wanted to inform you of a recent investigation regarding a potential insider leak." My stomach tightened. What does that have to do with me? The man hesitated, then sighed. "It appears that someone in the commission accessed the winning numbers before the official draw. We're still looking into how, but based on our findings, that information was leaked to a select few, including a private financial group your father is connected to." My blood ran cold. "You're saying my dad knew?" "Yes. We have strong reason to believe he was made aware of the winning ticket before the results were public." A pause. "Ms. Thompson, it's possible your family cut ties with you not because of personal reasons, but because they knew you would eventually come into this money, and they wanted to control how you used it." I couldn't breathe. They hadn't abandoned me out of disappointment. They hadn't turned their backs on me because I was a single mom. They had done it on purpose. They knew what was coming. They knew about my ticket before I even realized I had bought my way out of poverty. They left me struggling, left me desperate, because they were waiting for the moment I had no choice but to crawl back, so they could swoop in, so they could forgive me, so they could be the ones to manage my fortune, my future. I gripped my phone, my entire body trembling. Every tear I had shed, every night I had gone to bed hungry, every humiliating moment of begging for help, they had let it happen. No, they had planned it. I thought back to their sudden change of heart, the warm smiles, the fake apologies, the carefully placed words meant to pull me back in. "We're still family." I clenched my jaw. No, we weren't. A slow, bitter smile crept onto my face. They thought they had me cornered, thought I was still that scared, naive girl desperate for their approval, but they had no idea what they had created. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn. I don't lose. I stood at the edge of my new life, looking forward, not back. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not because of the money, but because I was free. Free from their manipulation, their conditions, their so-called love that was only ever tied to what I could offer them. I could have fought back. I could have exposed them, dragged their names through the mud, let the world see them for who they really were. But I didn't need to. They had already lost the one thing they had truly been after: me. They would never get their hands on my money, and more importantly, they would never get their hands on my heart again. Ethan giggled beside me, tugging at my hand. "Mommy, come play." I turned to him, his tiny face full of excitement, and in that moment, I knew. This was everything I had ever needed. I had spent years thinking I was alone, but I never really was. I had him. He had always been my reason to keep going, my anchor when everything felt impossible. And now, I could finally give him the life he deserved. Not just a life of comfort, but a life filled with love, stability, and the security of knowing he was wanted. I knelt down, brushing his curls back. "Okay, buddy, let's play." We ran through the grass, the sun warm on our skin, laughter filling the air. No mansion, no luxury cars, no extravagant lifestyle could ever match the happiness I felt in that moment, because happiness wasn't in the wealth, it was in this. In knowing I had built a life where I answered to no one but myself. I had won more than the lottery. I had won my freedom.